Robert was 68 years old, retired postal worker, walked routes for 31 years in sun, rain, and snow, thought he knew heat. On a Saturday morning in July, the temperature was already 95 degrees by 10 a.m. Robert looked at his lawn. It needed mowing. His wife said wait until evening. Robert said he'd be done in 45 minutes. He took his morning pills, lisinopril for blood pressure, metoprolol to keep his heart rate steady, and walked out to the garage. He did not bring water. He did not check the heat index. He did not know that what he was about to do could kill him. By 10:30, he was pushing the mower across the backyard. By 11, his shirt was soaked. By 11:15, a wave of dizziness hit him so hard, he stopped and grabbed the fence. He should have gone inside. He didn't. He told himself it was just the heat, just a little dizziness. He'd finish the last strip and then rest. At 11:45, Robert felt something he'd never felt before. A tightness across his chest. Not sharp, not stabbing, just a heavy pressure, like someone had placed a sandbag on his sternum. His arms felt weak. His stomach turned. He stumbled to the patio, grabbed the garden hose, and poured ice-cold water over his head and neck. That was the second mistake. At noon, Robert's wife found him on the patio floor, conscious but confused, clutching his chest. Skin hot and dry, he had stopped sweating entirely. She called 911. Robert survived. But what happened in those 90 minutes is a textbook example of everything a cardiologist would beg you to never do on a hot summer day. And today, I'm going to explain exactly why. To understand what happened to Robert, you need to understand what heat does to your cardiovascular system. At rest, your heart pumps about 5 liters of blood per minute. That blood feeds your brain, your kidneys, your muscles, your organs. In normal temperatures, the system is balanced. Supply meets demand. But when the temperature rises above 90 degrees, everything changes. Your body activates its emergency cooling system. Blood vessels near the skin dilate. Blood rushes to the surface to radiate heat outward. Your sweat glands activate, and your heart has to pump 2 to 4 times its normal output to sustain this process. 2 to 4 times. That means your 68-year-old heart, a heart that may already have narrowed coronary arteries, stiffened valves, or reduced ejection fraction, is suddenly being asked to work as hard as it does during vigorous exercise. Except you're not exercising, you're just standing outside. Now add actual exercise. Robert was pushing a lawnmower. His muscles were demanding blood. His cooling system was demanding blood. His organs were demanding blood. And his heart could not supply all 3. Something had to give. And in Robert's case, it was his coronary blood flow. The oxygen delivery to his own heart muscle dropped below the threshold. The medical term is myocardial ischemia. The translation: Robert's heart was suffocating. Think of it as a city during a heat wave and a water shortage at the same time. The fire department needs water, the hospitals need water, the residents need water. But the reservoir is running low because nobody refilled it. Robert hadn't drunk water since breakfast. And the pump, his heart, is being throttled by his beta blocker, which prevents it from speeding up the way a younger heart would. The city doesn't explode. It collapses. Slowly, quietly, one system at a time. That's exactly what happened to Robert, and it happens to thousands of seniors every summer across America. The American Heart Association published a scientific statement in circulation in 2024, confirming that environmental heat is an independent risk factor for cardiovascular events, not a contributing factor, an independent risk factor. Heat alone can trigger a heart attack in a vulnerable person. Add exertion, dehydration, and medication, you're building a bomb. The CDC reports that heat causes approximately 700 deaths per year in the United States, and the number 1 contributing factor in elderly heat deaths is outdoor physical activity during peak temperature hours. Peak hours are 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. That's when UV radiation is strongest, air temperature is highest, and heat index, the combination of temperature and humidity, reaches its most dangerous levels. Robert started mowing at 10:30, right in the danger zone. But here's what makes this so insidious. Mowing a lawn doesn't feel dangerous. Gardening doesn't feel dangerous. Walking to the mailbox, carrying groceries from the car, washing the car in the driveway. These are normal activities. They feel routine, safe. They are not safe at 95 degrees when you're 68 years old and your heart is already on 2 medications. At 95 degrees, with 60% humidity, the heat index can reach 110. At that level, heat exhaustion can set in within 30 minutes of moderate exertion. And the transition from heat exhaustion to heat stroke, a life-threatening emergency, can happen in as little as 15 minutes. 15 minutes between feeling dizzy and being unconscious on the ground. The American Heart Association's guideline is clear. All strenuous outdoor activity for seniors with cardiovascular risk should be performed before 8 a.m. or after 6 p.m. during summer months, not 10 a.m., not before it gets too hot, before 8 a.m., when the air is coolest, the sun is lowest, and your heart has the best chance of keeping up. Robert's cardiologist told him later, "If you had started at 7 a.m. instead of 10:30, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. Not because the task was different, because the temperature was." Let me ask you something. How many times this summer have you gone outside between 10 and 2 thinking, "I'll just be quick"? How many times have you mowed a lawn, pulled weeds, or carried heavy bags from the car during the hottest part of the day? Because every single time you did that, you were doing exactly what Robert did. You just got lucky. If you have a lawn to mow, mow it at dawn. If you have a garden to tend, tend it at dusk. If you have errands to run, run them before the sun reaches its peak. And if the task can wait until tomorrow, let it wait. Your schedule is not worth your life. Remember what Robert did when he felt the chest tightness? He grabbed the garden hose and poured ice-cold water over his head and neck. That was the second thing that nearly killed him. When your body is overheated, core temperature elevated, heart pumping at maximum capacity, blood vessels fully dilated, sudden exposure to cold water triggers something called the cold shock response. Here's what happens in your body in the first 30 seconds of cold water contact. Your sympathetic nervous system fires massively. Your blood vessels, which were wide open to release heat, constrict violently. Blood pressure spikes. Your heart rate, which was already elevated from heat and exertion, surges even higher. For a healthy 25-year-old, this is uncomfortable but manageable. For a 68-year-old man whose heart is already ischemic, already starved for oxygen, this sudden spike in blood pressure and heart rate can destabilize arterial plaque. It can trigger a fatal arrhythmia. It can cause the heart to simply stop. The Heart and Stroke Foundation of Canada calls this the cold water immersion paradox. You feel relief, your skin cools, your brain registers comfort, but underneath that comfort, your cardiovascular system is in crisis. The relief you feel is a lie your body is telling you. The safe way to cool down is gradual. Move to shade or air conditioning first. Sit down. Place a cool, not cold, damp towel on the back of your neck. Sip lukewarm water. Let your core temperature drop slowly over 15 to 20 minutes. Then, if you want a shower, make it lukewarm, not cold. Never jump into a cold pool on a hot day. Never chug ice water after being outside. Never pour cold water over your head when you're overheated. The temperature difference between your body and the water is the danger. Robert's cardiologist said something that stuck with me. The cold water didn't cool him down. It shocked his heart while his heart was already on fire. This applies to drinking ice water too. When you're severely overheated, chugging a glass of ice water can cause the vagus nerve to fire a reflex triggered by the sudden cold hitting your esophagus near the heart. This can cause a dangerous drop in heart rate called a vasovagal response. In a healthy person, it causes brief dizziness. In a person already in cardiac distress, it can cause syncope or worse. The rule is simple. Cool gradually, not fast, not dramatically, gradually. Give your heart time to adjust. This one catches people at barbecues, at family gatherings, at holiday picnics. The combination of a heavy meal, alcohol, and hot weather is what cardiologists informally call the cardiac trifecta. Here's why each one is dangerous on a hot day. A heavy meal diverts 20 to 30% of your cardiac output to your gastrointestinal tract for digestion. That's 20 to 30% less blood available for cooling. Your heart, already working overtime in the heat, now has a third competing demand. Cooling, digestion, organs. It can't do all three. Alcohol is a vasodilator. It widens your blood vessels further on top of the heat-induced dilation that's already happening. Blood pressure drops. But alcohol is also a diuretic. You urinate more. You lose more fluid. Your blood volume drops. And alcohol impairs your perception of heat. You don't realize how hot you actually are until it's too late. Caffeine adds a double hit. It's a mild diuretic, more fluid loss. And it's a stimulant. It increases your heart rate. On a cool morning, that's fine. On a 95-degree afternoon, you're asking your already stressed heart to beat even faster while simultaneously removing the fluid it needs to pump. The typical summer barbecue scenario: a heavy burger with sides, a cold beer or two, a cup of iced coffee, all outdoors in direct sun. Each one alone is manageable. Together, in heat, for a senior with cardiovascular disease, that's a medical setup. The cardiologist's rule for summer: light meals, no alcohol before 6 p.m. on hot days. And if you need caffeine, have it in the morning before the temperature climbs. Your heart will thank you. When Robert arrived at the emergency room, 3 things were happening simultaneously. His body temperature was 103.2 degrees. He had stopped sweating, a sign that his thermoregulation system had failed. His body had given up trying to cool itself. His blood was thick. Lab work showed hemoconcentration elevated hematocrit from severe dehydration. He hadn't drunk water since his morning coffee at 7 a.m. 5 hours of heat, exertion, and diuretic medication with nothing to replace the fluid. And his ECG showed ST segment depression. That's the electrical signature of a heart that isn't getting enough oxygen. Myocardial ischemia. His troponin levels were elevated, not high enough to confirm a heart attack, but high enough to confirm that his heart muscle was stressed to the breaking point. The ER team started IV fluids immediately. 2 liters of normal saline to rehydrate his blood. They placed cooling packs on his neck, armpits, and groin. They monitored his rhythm continuously. His cardiologist arrived and reviewed the full picture. Robert's metoprolol had prevented his heart from racing, which probably prevented a fatal arrhythmia, but it also prevented his body from mounting a proper cooling response. His lisinopril had suppressed his thirst signal, so he never felt the need to drink water. The cardiologist's words to Robert: "Your medications kept you alive, and they almost killed you. Not because they're wrong, because you didn't adjust your behavior for the heat." Robert was discharged the next day. No permanent heart damage. But his cardiologist told him, and this is the part I want you to remember: you were approximately 15 minutes from cardiac arrest when your wife called 911. 15 minutes. Between mowing a lawn and dying. Robert's cardiologist gave him a plan. I'm giving it to you. Point 1, the time rule. All outdoor activity before 8 a.m. or after 6 p.m. No exceptions on days above 90 degrees. Point 2, the hydration rule. 8 ounces of water every 60 minutes on hot days. Don't wait for thirst. Your thirst mechanism is broken. Set a timer. Point 3, the cooling rule. Gradual cooling only. Cool towels. Lukewarm showers. No cold shock. No ice water on overheated skin. Ever. Point 4, the meal rule. Light meals on hot days. No alcohol before 6 p.m. Limit caffeine to morning hours. Point 5, the signal rule. Any dizziness, chest tightness, nausea, or confusion means stop. Move to shade or air conditioning immediately. If symptoms persist for more than 5 minutes, call 911. Don't wait. Let me list the specific warning signs your family should know. Dizziness or lightheadedness that doesn't resolve after sitting down. Chest pressure, even mild, especially with exertion in heat. Nausea or vomiting after being outdoors. Skin that feels hot and dry, meaning you've stopped sweating, which is a red flag. Confusion or slurred speech. Rapid heartbeat that you can feel in your chest or neck. Unusual fatigue, the kind where your legs feel like they can't hold you. Any one of these symptoms in a person over 65 on a hot day is not just the heat, it is a potential cardiac emergency. Robert follows these 5 rules now, every summer, without exception. His wife printed the list and taped it to the refrigerator. She checks the forecast every morning, and she never lets him near the lawnmower after 9 a.m. Robert is alive because his wife called 911 inches time. Not everyone is that lucky. If you've ever mowed your lawn on a hot day, type Robert in the comments. I want to know how many of you have done exactly what Robert did without knowing the risk. Share this video with every man and woman over 60 you know, especially the ones who say, "I'll be fine, it's just a little heat." Because that's exactly what Robert said. 15 minutes before his wife called 911. Subscribe and hit the bell. Because next time, I'm revealing the summer hydration myth that's actually damaging your kidneys. You need to hear it. Stay safe, stay cool, and stay alive.